Okay guys, so let's look at where to write and run JavaScript. So you can write JavaScript in any text editor, if it is Notepad text editor or other text editors like Sublime Text, Notepad plus plus, Vim, Atom, Brackets, Emac, TextMate, and other text editors. There are a lot of them, a lot of text editors. Just choose the best, the one that you like most. Okay, so first of all, let's try to write JavaScript with Notepad. Okay, so going to the project folder, so I'm going to open the HTML file with Notepad. Okay, so I'm just going to come down here and okay, let me create a p tag here. So I'm going to give it an ID, greet, and scripts. I'm going to talk more about this script later on in this tutorial. Okay, so I'm going to get the elements that we want to output something in it. So I'm just going to give it a default text of greet dot get elements by ID, greet dot inner HTML. I'm going to talk more about this later on because hello world. Okay, now let's save it and go back to the browser. And before we output something, I'm just going to remove this and save it. Okay, and reload the page. Okay, you can see the greet here. All right, so let's go back and write the greeting back. Hello world. Okay, save it and go back to the browser, reload the page. Okay, you can see it's hello world. All right, let's try to write another thing again. Okay, I'm just going to write another time, or the second time. Save it, go to the browser, reload the page. All right, you can see it is run. You can see it here. Okay, now let's close Notepad and try to use another text editor. So I'm going to be using VS Code to open it, and that's what we are going to be using in this tutorial. So I'm going to open it with VS Code. Okay, so this VS Code is a very cool text editor. Okay, so this is VS Code. I'm not going to give it a tab, and before we reload the page, let's look at the browser again and go back to the code. Let me just write the third time. Okay, I'm going to save it and go to the browser and reload the page. I can see it has run it. Okay, so you can also use Notepad. You can use Notepad, VS Code, or any text editor you like. So, but in this tutorial, we're going to be using VS Code all through this tutorial. Okay, so let's talk about where do we run JavaScript. So I've written something here. JavaScript is most often run on web pages, inside the browser, inside client browser, maybe on desktop or mobile, and it can also run on the server. that is outside the browser. It can also run outside the browser on the server. And any computer that has Node.js. And what's Node.js? Node.js is an open source JavaScript backend runtime environment. So it executes JavaScript outside the browser. So it makes JavaScript to be executed outside the browser. But JavaScript is mostly run on the browser. So Node.js is like other backend programming languages like PHP, Ruby, Perl, and programming languages like that. So that's what Node.js is. So it's a runtime environment that executes JavaScript outside the browser. It makes JavaScript to be executed outside the browser. But basically, JavaScript is executed on the browser. That's basically it is executed in the browser.